For a long time, I wanted to just talk about some things that I've been seeing and some messages that I've been shown and read in the Bible that are not according to the mainstream belief of the part of the doctrine that I'm a part of. But I've not been doing it because I worry so much about my equipment. I bought the camera, I have the microphone, and I'm buying all these things and I'm doing all that. And then I realize, oh, I have to have the lighting, all the things that I have to do. And for years, I've been putting it off. I've made some videos, they weren't quality videos. I have a couple channels that I've posted on. I have not kept up with them because I just think that I'm never there. I'm so busy. I just a time to learn all the software. I've had other people helping me. I haven't paid people to help me, and I could send my videos out but I haven't been doing that, and I reach a point where I realize I am worrying so much about the method. But sometimes the truth is more than the method. The truth that you have to deliver to the world is greater than the method um, that will carry that truth. And in my case, I think sometimes the substance in the vessel is greater than the vessel. And that's why I'm coming to you today. Plain Jane, nothing, no dressing up like I used to, nothing. Just come because that's what's on my heart. And the longer I take to do it, the word is gone from me. And today I just want to come to those who want to hear me, those who are ready to hear, those who will spread it. I have made videos, none have gone viral. I guess it's not on a lot of things that people want to hear. And I'm not looking even for viral. What I'm looking for is to reach those that want to hear this message. And there are a lot of things now going on in the spiritual world, spiritually, where people are seems like they're searching for the church to come back to prominence and God to come back to this world. But if you listen to what they're saying and you watch what the Bible is saying, you start to question um, if they're talking about the same God and if the Bible is what they're using. So I've been a part of a organization, religion, or church for a good part of my life. So I am proficient in Adventism. I'm proficient in Seventh Day Adventism. I grew up Baptist, Anglican, everything else. I've been everywhere, done everything, and but I'm proficient in Adventism. I love the the doctrine. I love that it reflects the thoughts and the preaching of the apostles and Christ and the prophets that were sent and the patriots, and this is where the doctrine is. But more and more there's this contention of whether you should break away and how you should treat the church when you see apostasy, when you hear messages that are not the same as you've been hearing before. And some of the excuses that you hear now is, that we have to change to get people in the church, and we have to move from a law base where we are so legalistic to a more love base and all about Christ. And while that is happening, there are people that, like myself, are struggling to see where do I find myself. And I see people that have not been in the church this long don't know the truth, and things that are being preached to them, they really don't know the truth. They can't decipher whether or not. And I always say this thing that when a lie is told long enough, and the truth is gone, if a lie told long enough without the truth, that lie becomes the truth. And no one can help you to see the truth when the truth is no longer in the society. 500 years ago, the thing that was truth is no longer truth because 500 years later, they have done everything to get rid of it. And the younger people don't know it. And that's what's happening in our church right now. Um, First time you would see the pastors, the old way of how I know it to be was that younger pastors would come from the seminary and they would have to go to the older pastors to be vetted and proven if they can run the church. And as long as it takes them to prove that they can run the church and have the attitude that that pastor want them to have, they would never be taught, they would never be led on to become ordained and get in their own churches. So that was the way it was before, and pastors would have to be vetted by older pastors as they come from the seminary. But it seems like there was always a change at foot here, and they know that they wanted to change what was happening. And what they would do, they would send the pastors out. The older pastors would vet. By the time the pastors are finished with them, year, 2 years in, these younger pastors would change their way of life. Then the way they would want to teach the truth, the way they would want to run the churches, they would have to change that to match what the older pastors have taught them. And over time, those who are purpose in changing our doctrine would realize that that method wasn't working. So over time, I am saying what I know. I'm not talking about, people could say you're not saying truth or whatever. I am talking my truth in the sense that I saw it, I heard it, I was a part of that which happened where pastors were told to go back to school. And if most of the time now you don't have your masters, you can't really fully control churches. So, and that is questionable because there are pastors that don't have a master's that have a church. But the advice is that everybody should go back and get a master's and all that stuff because the people are smarter than a pastor. For you to run the church well, you have to do it. So a lot of pastors would go back and start to study in schools that weren't even our schools. You would go into their offices, and hanging on their wall would be degrees that didn't come from Loma Linda, or even if they come from Loma Linda, they came from Loma Linda with these degrees. The degree that they get, the classes that they took had nothing to do with Adventism. This would be NPL. I hope I'm saying it right. This language class, they would do some things like pseudoscience, like psychology that control the mind of the people who were they're pastoring over. Conflict resolution in a way to say, control the masses. And the older pastors would go and learn this. The younger pastors are learning the same thing. So when they go to the churches, there wouldn't be a conflict. So the changes came more rapidly after the 90s, the mid 90s. The changes were more rapid because now the older pastor went back, they learned, even their dressing changed. And there was still some amount of reverence for the older pastors because they were waiting on them to die. So I remember one time I went to a prominent pastor, younger pastor, who now have risen up to the risen up in the ranks, and he's actually a leader of one of our conferences. And I remember when I was with him, a young man, just working, just doing track work and going out in the community. And I would see how he would tell us to leave the people, let them come in, and they would come in, but they were doing things that are offensive, like in the church. They would clench their cigarette and put out their cigarette literally in the churchyard, walk in inside. Okay, fine. And they would walk in and their clothing would not be that. Like, I remember guys would go up and participating in singing. The drummer would be a drummer from the literal, we pay him to get there, and he's a hype man. And then would have another guy, muscular guy, and he wear a lot of spandex shirts and all that, and it's all about his muscle. And we'd have him up on there, up on stage, not realizing that they're weak people in the pews. And I watched the elders move to the back of the big church. Not only that church, but more than one church, because they were frustrated with the way things were going. And I remember him when he went to another state, and I was in that state when he came and he preached, and I went there because I heard my pastor is coming. I was so happy, and I went and I hear him preach, and I was like, wow. The guys who were at the church were a couple older pastors came there and they sat down to listen because they heard that he was doing and bringing people in church, and they were listening, and he preached a message I would want to be rebaptized. Message was solid, straight up. The next week I went back to where I was living, and he came back to the state, and I hear him preaching. I was like, I can't believe you. He would take like the 300 messages and turn it into something to do with season harvest breakthrough, prosperity doctrine, like dead serious. He would take Revelation 13 and turn it into a prosperity doctrine, our sermon. And over time, I watch these things happening to the point now where I need to speak out, because there's a big thing about leaving the Adventist church and not leaving the Seventh Day Adventist Church and leaving the conference churches compared to starting your own thing. And the reason why this is becoming more prominent and people are saying don't leave, and it's almost like they're trying to stop all the doors, is my question is, do you think that the shaking is happening and you can't stop it? Because we have never seen it like this before. Do we know if it's the shaking? But with that aside, let me just bring to the forefront what I'm seeing. So the pastors are now coming back in with different ideology from different churches, and I even heard the past secretary of the conference said that he was tired of it because we were going out and learning from these people, and these people were saying that these methods that they use only gone off 15% of the people. They were serving 15%. The next 85% weren't being served, and the method wasn't working. And they were coming back with these methods. They were coming back with these new ideas, new way of doing things, forming a new foundation or platform. They were getting rid of some of the older members who were opposing them, and as they opposed them, they would set the church against them. And you could not say much, because before the Adventist church was such that you could actually get up and like raise your hand or say, like, you'd have meetings where the populace would meet and have different meetings, and you could say things. No, you can't stand in church and protest. I mean, I'm not talking about shouting. I'm talking about you standing someone up there preaching something that is not according to what you learned. You said that's not true. You could stand and say that's not true. And you could get away with that. No, you can't. They will call the police on you. We see where elders who are really good at the doctrinal stuff, like really understand the doctrine and the Bible and how Ellen White helped to break it down. So it's not about Ellen Whiteism. No, it's about understanding the Bible from the perspective that it's broken down. You can see it clearly by reading Ellen White. And there were guys like these in the churches, and what they're doing now, they're taking power away from them. And they're putting in people in the place that literally come into the church like 6 months, 3 months, a year. And they're coming from different denominations, and they're preaching like they have been taught their whole life. But as long as you preach Christ, it's okay. You don't talk about Ellen White. Now they're saying E.G. are my favorite writer. Today I listened to a sermon that was broadcast. It was actually streamed from one of our major networks. And the preacher was talking about the Sabbath and the seventh day. And he was saying that, man, we are stressed out and the world is stressed and war is causing stress and money crisis is causing stress and God is calling you away to rest and you rest on the seventh day. He never talked about the seventh day being on Saturday. He never named it until he actually get to the end of his message. He said, with me personally, when it comes to Friday at sunset, I know I don't have to worry anymore because I'm making time for God and I'm meeting with him and laying my burden. And he said all of that, but at the end of it, you realize he was talking about Sabbath the whole time. He said, oh, the ladies prepared the spices and it was a Sabbath day and they rested. And he said all the things we used to say, but he wasn't placing it on Saturday. He wasn't placing it. He said the day in the middle. The day in the middle. The day in the middle. He was stressing more a rest day. So for people who want the Sabbath and a rest day when the week is changed to Monday being the first day of the week, they're going to look back on a message like this and say, okay, I'm keeping the Sabbath. I'm on the seventh day of the week. As I said before, a lie told long enough with the presence of the truth, the lie become the truth. So this is what's happening to us as we look at the transformation and for us going back into Egypt. And people are saying the church is Babylon. One of my favorite authors, we should say E.G. said that Babylon is created when you preach spiritism, um, the immortality of the spirit, and you talk against the commandments of God, which is the fourth commandment, which has all his print is what he rules over is sealed in. So they're changing the church by getting rid of the older guys. They're changing it by the way the pastors used to be vetted. They're changing it by actually the vetters were the older pastors. They're now bringing them back in and retraining them. And they're retraining actually membership. As the newer membership comes in, they're preaching the Daniel Revelation seminars constantly now. And they're preaching it and they're apologizing to Roman Catholic organization, or we should say the religion. It's not a church. It's a political system. And we're now preaching and saying sorry. And pastors are now saying that literally, I've heard 3-4 times from our pulpit that we should be also sorry because we were a part of it that caused the problem. That we were the one who turned. We are a part of it. We came out of it. But Luther came out of that. And he brought up for the Reformation with Zwingli, Hus, and Jerome, and all these guys. But the thing is, the Reformation was one thing, but the truth was always there. Yeah, we passed through the Dark Ages all the way until 1798, but the truth was always there. They didn't know because they were in that system. So we make it seem as if that the whole Christian church came out of that. No. The Geldian Bridge was a mark for 200 in the 200s to 313, 326 down to 1798, where Constantine knew that he was going to face sword defeat at the Geldian Bridge, knew that he had to have the Christian turn to him, and he did what he did. Nothing was shown after that. Yes, he went to Christ replicas and where he was born and made a thing of it, but the religion that came from him and those who were around him and the Catholic system was full with mysticism, and the Stoics had their way with it. It was, everything from the stars and the moon and everything to do with um, uh, people like the the founding fathers of modern day psychology and philosophy. All these guys, their doctrines are actually in the Catholic system. So that's where I think we're now going to the point of saying that this system that we see here is actually making its way in the church now through these things that I've mentioned. So another thing we're doing, we're tying up our funds. Notice McDonald's is getting new building, Taco Bell, all these stores are getting new buildings, and the Adventist church is getting new building from the pockets of the people. They're tying up the budget. And the pastors are coming and saying, look how I'm out there sweating, I'm working. And they're making the people fall in love with them so much because they're so loving and kind and all these things. And they're doing all these things. And look how hard I'm working and this. And they're bringing that to the people now. And they're saying, but I'm no different than you. I'm an old sinner, a liar, just like you and God. Yeah, I understand that. But when you bring that to the people, you're trying to make them know that there's no, you just need to relax. No, we're all the same. We're in the same part and we're working hard and we must sacrifice. Look, I'm putting my money in there. And now it's all about sacrificial giving. And the budget is always tied up. There's always an issue. There's always something that we have to fix. This is what been taught to the pastors. Get down and get dirty with the people. And the church is just like McDonald's. It's making new right out of the pocket of the people, and the budget is gone. So we don't have budget to do work for the church, like garnering more people and put up this and do that. We're now making community service centers where people would come into the church building, in the church yard, and they would do what they want, literally do what they want, because we want to get closer to the community. So these are some things they're doing. They're changing the name of the churches. They're putting their own logo and they're saying, we want to get close to the community because the community is afraid of what we were before. And they're changing the logo. They're doing all these things. They're preaching. I've seen churches that literally go out on the side and help people wash their clothes in the laundry, clean their yards, buying them food in McDonald's, not because they're hungry, but because it's a way of witnessing and giving back. We're stepping off the platform, man, real hard. We're supposed to be a light on a hill, but you know, how can you light it and put it on a bush, or you light it and put it down in the valley where nobody can be guided by it? We should be different. I'm not saying we should be legalistic, but different. The problem is that we have people coming into our church now and they're teaching us how to win people to our church. You know, we should go out with carts and bring them in and have welcome table and all these things that we have to do, and smile and do all these things and put up sign, make people know clearly where the bathroom is, and all this training is going on. This is what we do at work. So it's a business now. Where is the place for the Holy Spirit and conversion? If I'm converted, I'm not supposed to be told to do. Conversion should teach me that that's a soul and I love that soul so much. The person should be clawing me off of them because of how much I'm throwing myself at them to have them saved. So we bypass the Holy Spirit job. We're bypassing conversion and we're going to a more business model. Roll the red carpet out. So we are getting rid of some of the things that we knew before. Even the baptismal vow, it's gone. You have to ask for it. And some people just don't do it. So these people are coming in and they want to be a part of us, but they don't know that we don't believe in smoking. We have a health law, we have a dress law, we have these. No, it's out. All of this is out now. So today, the message that I listened to, they never once promoted the health message that we have. He read something from the Neo Clinic. And when he read it and he get to the bottom where he said yoga, he said, I don't believe in yoga. But he could have taken it out of his presentation before he presented it. But he presented it and then said, I don't believe in yoga because it's a new religion. Why did you put it in there? Yes, it's from the Neo Clinic, but you didn't have to read the whole thing. And even if you do, you didn't emphasize our message. And gradually, we're breaking things down in the church where the layman's supposed to finish the gospel. Another thing, the layman finished the gospel. We know that in our prophecies. But the layman don't have the mic anymore. Why? The layman just don't have the mic. The elders used to run the church. The pastors would come and go, the elders run the church. And you would say, yeah, but it still remains. But think about the changes that they have made. They have made changes like a meeting with the elders would not be recognized unless the conference sanction it or the pastor sanction it. Usually you could meet and talk about the pastor, say he's not doing a good job or he's messing up or he's not preaching the truth. You could vote to get rid of him, bring it to the conference. Things were done a different way. It cannot be done anymore. It cannot be done that way anymore. Pastors who would be coming to the church to bring certain amount of truths and light, the budget is so tied up, they don't have no budget. They don't have budget for that. They don't have budget to bring in people from help this and help that. And yes, it's still been done in the church, but the amount of it that was done before is not. The pastors will go up and preach. I have a pastor told me already, say exactly what I told you. And I said, and I didn't say it, so they cut me from the platform party. So these are some of the things that I see happening in our churches that just, it's just really hard. And people said, don't come off the platform, but there's a new platform that have been formed. The church is literally a new organization. That's why they changed the logo, and we just have to accept that. But now we're not preaching the doctrine the way it was. Daniel and Revelation seminar, they're retraining people to see the beast as, one pastor even said, the Pope is a beautiful guy. I have nothing against the Pope. What I have against is a system that is set up that they're perpetuating toward the years. Why am I making special effort to reach the papacy? The papacy is like anybody else. They need to be reached by the gospel. You preach a gospel, if they don't want to hear it, why am I pursuing them? So the thing is, we find ourselves in a place where people are saying, should I leave the church or not? Should I stay in the church? And they're saying, well, the ship may seem like it's about to fall, but it will not fall. But understand this. We're saying that the wheat and the tares will grow together. The sifting will take place at the end of when the Sunday law is passed. But when the Sunday law is passed, from our prophecy, is the end of probation. So you're telling me the church is going to get to probation with in disarray? Seriously. So when are we going to have time to pronounce the last message, to give it to the world, to be pure, to be true, to be ready for God's coming? Desmond Ford doctrine that even as God is coming down, we still have to be forgiven people. I guess that's where we're going. A lot of our pastors don't even believe in the sanctuary message anymore. We had a quarterly that was the whole thing in Hebrew, nothing about the sanctuary service. Last thing I want to say as I close is this, that we're thinking that we're in a bubble and they're not a system set up out there to break this truth that we preach in asunder, because it's a, let me tell you, Ellen White to the Adventist Church and to those who want to change our doctrine, it's like the Constitution of the United States to those who want to turn this country into an international country. The Constitution is the only thing that we have stopping them from destroying America. Ellen White writing is the only thing that we have in the Seventh Day Adventist Church stopping them from wiping us out. And how they're doing it? Infiltrating us. We're infiltrating ourselves. Our own guys, children grow up in the church, going off to schools, coming back with ideas that are not ours. Because they didn't learn the doctrine when we were children. And they go out, learn something else, bring it back, and they're forcing it to the church right now. These guys didn't leave. They're staying. The guys from under four, they stay and they're changing the church from inside. So I want to say this last thing. How do you think we're being infiltrated? I'll share this one with you. A lot of our prominent members, people who lead the church, their daughters and their sons have married to people. Some of them have only one child, no more than two. Married to someone that they don't understand, that was sent to get them, court them, marry them. That person who marry into that family move up into the system faster than if they were supposed to come as a regular member. So they become your pastors, your leaders. They become your conference presidents, your conference. I'm not saying the president is, but I'm saying they become anything in the church. They editors. They become anything they want because they marry into prominence. And now these are the people that are taking over our churches and leading our churches. They're the people who are sanctioning some stuff. And you wonder, why don't they say anything about this or say anything about that? And why is this happening? And how is it getting past everybody? What's happening here? Ellen White says that the church, well, seems like it's going to fall and it will not fall. But people have to stand up for God. That's how Jerusalem and all these places were warned that they're going to go into captivity if they don't change. So the changes came for Nineveh because Jonah went there. The changes will have to come in the Adventist church. So it seems like it may fall. The doctrine might be gone. The word of God might finally be eradicated from this world because no one is standing up. That's what it's saying. And then people are saying, but so you want a disorganized church, so you can't speak anymore. Just read the Bible, pray, witness, bring people to listen to truth and die because they're not getting truth. They're going to die and go to Christless grave because they're not getting the truth. So in the meantime, people are dying, waiting for the close of probation or the Sunday law to be passed. So many of these people who come into the church don't know the truth are dying. That's what you're saying. So don't leave the church. Don't break up into small atoms. We have to stay organized and what? In unity. She said, don't break up into small atoms. She wasn't talking about the church going into splinter groups and people over here preaching the truth and over there and over here. No, they said, I see the guy in the marketplace preaching. He's not of us. He said, leave him alone. He's preaching the truth. Paul even said that too. But listen to this. That's not what it means. It means that you shouldn't take a part of the doctrine like Peter was saying about Paul's writings and preach it as truth without the rest of it and interpret it your way and preach it. And whoever water and one plant the seed and another water. That's not what you want. God wants the full doctrine as came from Christ, as came from the prophets and the priests and those who follow Christ, the apostles, to preach it the same way, preach the full truth. She was saying, don't take a part of it that makes sense to you. Like the Jews were doing. They would embrace Christ, but they would still put in circumcision and you should believe all these things. She's saying, don't break up the doctrine of Christ and preach it in little splinters. Not that you can't go and start an independent ministry and preach that truth. Thank you for your time. I pray that God will bless us and keep us as we continue to press forward.